I'm Lisa Snyderman, and this is Conversations on Creating to Heal. And today I'm really thrilled to be speaking with Brian Bourgault in Denver, Colorado, a composer, producer, and vocalist. And his story is persevering through a progressive neurological disease and discovering the healing power of making music without the ability to play an instrument. So welcome, Brian.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, it's so nice for you to be here. So I described a little bit about you, but maybe you could talk about yourself and if you might have a mission or purpose for the kind of music that you do.
Sure. I've been playing music since I was a teenager, and I was a guitar player and a singer, songwriter. And in 2005, I was diagnosed with Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease, which, as you said, is a progressive neuromuscular disease. So I have lost the use of my hands and unable to play guitar because of that. So I walked away from music for a long time, for 10 years. And when I was no longer able to work, I went on disability 2 years ago. I found myself with a lot of time, and I wanted to get back to my passion, which was music. So I had to figure out how to do it without being able to play guitar, and began composing on my computer, just using MIDI and composing songs that way. I took musicians into a studio last October 2017 and had them play the parts that I had written on the computer, and we recorded an album. And that was my re-entry into music. When I got diagnosed, I owned a music store, a guitar store. And I lived in the back, and I was giving guitar lessons and buying and selling equipment. And I began losing the ability to play guitar. This was 2003. And I just kind of blew it off for 2 years. By 2005, I couldn't play guitar anymore. And I finally went to a neurologist and got diagnosed. So yeah, I no longer had a place to live. I no longer had my business, my income, and I had a incurable disease. So that was a very low point for me. I had to declare bankruptcy, close my music store, and sleep on a friend's couch until I could get my feet back under me. So that was definitely the lowest part. And then it was kind of crawling out of that low point to my next one, which happened probably 5 years after that, when I could no longer work. That was just too much for me to work. Crawling out of that low point to making music again. So I'm not at a low point now. I'm at a high point. There are low points throughout every day, but they're not, I don't think what we're talking about. They're just like, stumbling blocks.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's been dark. It's been super dark. Just recently, I came out of a super dark, negative. I think I told you, I'm not a light in the darkness. I am the darkness. But that seems to have lifted. We go through those different periods. Everybody does,
Yeah. Thank you for, being courageous and sharing that. I think that the ability for us to be vulnerable and be able to share this really helps others, because they hear it and they also, feel empowered perhaps to, not only do they not feel alone, but they also can feel empowered to share.
Well, I think it creates inclusion, because I think when you're exposed to people who are presenting themselves as lights in the darkness, or people who are super positive and telling you how you just got to have a good attitude and you think, well, these people aren't like me. These people are always happy, and these people are always positive, and these people are always doing the right thing. I'm not like that. So how can I ever get out of this shit that I'm in? But I'm not that way. I'm not super positive and super happy and always spreading joy and light. I realize that that's how I want to be, and I'm working towards that. Yeah. But if you're not that way right now, that's okay. That's like, you don't go to yoga because you're super flexible. You go to yoga because you're not. You want to be.
When you were going through this, did you use music? Did you lyrically describe your journey, or was the music something that you created but didn't really stick to the themes in the music?
Right. For that album, it was a lot of material that I had begun writing many years ago, and some new songs as well. There aren't any, lyrically content speaking, there aren't really any songs about being disabled or about my struggle with it. So on that album, you're not going to find that. I do have a few songs that touch on it. One that we'll talk about later. As my music takes another shift, I'm sort of moving away from the live instrument thing and doing everything on the computer now, just because I can. I don't need to try to coordinate 5 other people's schedules to do it that way. And playing live is very difficult for me, being in a band. So it's more just the process of creating music that is the therapy for me. I'm not vetting anything. The songs aren't necessarily autobiographical. It's just the process of creating, of producing something and putting it out into the world.
That's amazing. So talk about what that's like for you, the actual composition on the computer. Was that a hard transition for you to make from playing an instrument to having that kind of more virtual?
In some ways, I mean, it's changed things, but I think it's changed them in a good way. I'm more excited about the newer music that I'm making than I was about the older way I would do it, which would be more folky, strumming on a guitar, singing. Now it's more, starts out with drums, bass. It's more rhythmic now, and it's a more exciting kind of music for me, I think. It's still very difficult to use a mouse. I can't use any kind of MIDI controllers, so I have to actually punch in every note individually onto a piano roll and then assign that to whatever synthesizer or instrument I want to play those notes. So there's that. That's hard about it too, the actual physical act of doing it, and coupled with the learning curve. But it's cool. I like it a lot, and I spend a lot of time on it. It gives me something to do. So that's kind of the biggest healing part of it for me, is having something to do that I'm passionate about to fill the hours of my day. And then it's something that I can then share with the world.
Yeah, talk about that part of it for you. So I assume, you released your album, and what kind of impact did it and your story have?
I think it had a pretty good impact. I mean, I think just the backstory is what's impactful more so than the content of the album. The songs are great. They sound great. Don't get me wrong, but there's not that healing message necessarily in the music. So I think it's just my backstory. Wow, he did this in spite of that.
It's very inspirational, right? So somebody who understands your backstory and then listens gets a different perspective than if you were just listening to music thinking it's another rock song.
Yeah, exactly. So it went well. I mean, I released it. It was great. It's on Spotify. It's on iTunes. I released an EP last month. I'm going to release another EP in December. So my goal is to release something every quarter, whether it's a single or an EP. I doubt it will be an LP, but we'll see. So release something every quarter. That kind of keeps me in touch with the world, gets me out of my isolation a little bit. And that's just my goal. I mean, the subject matter of the songs might come around. I think the one that we'll talk about later is definitely about what's going on with me physically. So I'm excited about it, and it's cool to be able to write about that, but I don't think I'd ever limit myself to writing about that. That would be really hard for me. That'd be really hard for me. Just kind of, songs usually flow. They end up being what they are.
No, that's really great, And so for you, when you've shared this music, what's the process been like working with musicians and having them get your vision? Like, how has that been? And also, have you used the same people for each project, or are you changing that up?
I was fortunate to get some really great players to record with me. So I think my vision, and I chose people also that would have a similar vision to me. So it wasn't so hard to explain what I heard. I also had the demos that we could listen to. The only person that played on my release show that recorded with me was the drummer. Um, I had to put another whole band together. It was challenging because it's like a 7-8 piece band with horns and backup singers and keys and guitar and the whole deal. So that became an immediate roadblock. It's difficult to coordinate that many schedules and then book shows around all the other bands that those people play in. That's what kind of prompted me to say, you know what, I'm just going to start doing full electronic. So if I start performing again, it will probably be a DJ set, which is what I'm working towards now.
How fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of where it's headed for me. And it's also easier for me than trying to get to a rehearsal, get up on stage in front of a microphone and dance around for an hour. That's super challenging for me.
Yeah. You talked a little bit about how music is therapy. Can you maybe go into a little bit, obviously it takes you away from what you're focusing on, but how do you experience it? Is it something that's spiritual or physical or something else for you?
Unfortunately, I have not found the physical healing aspect of it yet. I hope I figure that out. But it definitely centers my mind, and it's kind of like it's something that I get lost in. 10 hours will go by, and it just seems like, wow, that was just like the blink of an eye. So it focuses my mind. I have a pretty noisy mind, and I think if it has an outlet, that's good. If it doesn't, it's bad. So it kind of gives me an avenue for all the noise in my mind. It kind of is probably like a Ritalin. Music is my Ritalin.
Oh, that's great. I'll have to quote you on that.
Yeah.
So I want to invite you to share something with us. It sounds like you wanted to talk about a specific song. Talk about that, and then maybe just, tell us a little story about why you chose that.
Yeah. So I chose this song because out of all of my songs, it probably touches on my physical disability more than any of the other ones. So that's why I chose this song. It's a song that I actually wrote several months ago. And when I first wrote it, it was called Broken Body. The first line, the first verse is, I live in a broken body. I need a bodyguard. Dying must be easy. Living is so hard. And so the song was called Broken Body. And the chorus is, there's an enemy in a part of me that I can't hide. At the heart of me, a tragedy, soul suicide. When you look at me, what do you see? Close your eyes. Find me in the matrix of your mind. So it's asking the listener, instead of looking at me with your eyes and seeing the physical disability, close your eyes and find me in that other realm. So that's the repeating chorus. The song is now called Enemy. I thought that was a better name than Broken Body. The song has been written and rewritten, I don't even know how many times. And now that I have it in the production stages of finding the instrumentation and getting the sounds right, and I've spent a ton of time on my vocals on this song. It has a really cool vibe to it. And the lyrics are great to it, I think. So it's basically about that. It's about living in a broken body, and it kind of touches on also, we're born into this for learning. We're here for a reason in the situation that we find ourselves in. And it's just kind of that, never mind the physical world, never mind what you see, close your eyes and find me in like another dimension. There's an enemy in a part of me that I can't hide. In the heart of me, in tragedy, so suicide. When you look at me, what do you see? Close your eyes, find me in the matrix of your mind. I think it's really neat, that you're able to tap into that and, be able to share your experience. And I think you'll have a big impact on others. That's neat. I hope so, man. I hope that people can, check my story out and maybe apply it to their own and find some encouragement, or just dig the music.
Yeah, or dig the
Yeah.
music. I mean, that's the other thing. Yeah. And so was this process a little bit different? You said this was a lot more electronic. Was it all?
Right. So every sound on here is generated on my computer. I mean, there's no live instruments. There's some samples of live instruments that sound a lot like live instruments. Mostly my vocal production. I mean, in the past, I've always sang into a microphone, maybe put a little bit of reverb on it, and
Yeah.
that's it. Now I've got like 5 vocal tracks going through vocal synths, going, a lot of delay. Not so much to hide anything, but to transform things, and it adds to the mood and the feel. It's kind of a psychedelic song.
And before we go, this is a hard one, but do you have some life lessons or some
Uh,
affirmations that you tell yourself that somebody who might
um,
be going through something similar could benefit from?
I don't know, man. I'd say be patient with yourself. I mean, I'm still learning that lesson.
Yeah.
I'm very impatient. Yeah, slow down. When you think you're going slow enough, go slower. Try to enjoy it. I mean, and try to find a way to laugh at it. I mean, if you can't do that, it's going to be really hard. I try to laugh at my constant struggle, and it's not so funny most of the time, but it's not the end of the world either. And try to look at the good things that it's led you to. I would not be sitting here talking to you right now if I didn't have this disease, and I wouldn't be producing music again, probably not not like this, not on this level. So try
Yeah.
to find the good in it. I mean, it's hard, and it's hard to, but try to, I mean, just be real with yourself, be patient with yourself, and be kind with yourself.
Love
Those,
it. Those
yeah.
are those are great lessons and things, words of wisdom. So thank you for coming on to Conversations on Creating to Heal.
Thanks, Lisa.